Okay, so I know I've been MIA for a little bit. That's because I was on fall break. Spent a little time with family and kind of on like a little bit of a vacation. Went to New York, spent some time in New York City. That was great. Went up north to where my mom and my stepdad live. We did a hike in the Adirondacks. Spent some time in Vermont. Um, Went up to Lake Placid area. Went to Whiteface, and did a whole bunch of different stuff. So back home, I haven't been able to make really much content recently. There have been some things that I had made that I was struggling with the different editing apps that I use. Um, I think it's because my there's not enough space on my phone at the moment, so I have to deal with that, and then I will get back to editing. I have been working on a few things that you can expect to see within the coming next week or two. I want to present some information about former advisor to Donald Trump, Steve Bannon, and his role in radicalizing young men. This is kind of going back to like the Gamergate era. I think there's a strong link with that and a lot of political violence that are not always necessarily people on the right, but I don't think that's really people on the left. It's people that are kind of politically not aligned, people that are very lonely. There's some parallels here with how the mustache man, leader of the German party that we all know about in the 1930s, 1940s, really going back to like 1920 actually. Um, it's a group that is very vulnerable to radicalization, and that's been used by authoritarian leaders historically and presently. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about some positive things, like let's take a look at the healthcare system, the models that are used in the United States that are backed by the different parties, the different variations, different kinds of outcomes that we're seeing, who it benefits, who is really served by those policies, and other models that exist in the world that I feel based on the data. It's not I feel it based on data, based on evidence, work far better and are more cost effective. And a path to transition with consideration for things that might be potentially downsides of a transition, but ways that we can minimize those. I think we should always be talking about what we want. Like on the other side of this, what I hope is a strong movement that is popular among everyone to have better systems that are equitable. I want all Americans. I don't care which party you affiliate yourself with. Like I think you should have healthcare, preferably free at the point of use, and that could save a lot of money and a lot of lives. There's no reason why we should be okay with millions of people dying unnecessarily because of a unfair healthcare system. And people keep hearkening back to like the 1950s. But one of the things that made it so people that just worked like a normal job at, say, the grocery store, they could provide for a family of four or more, because we had different tax policy then. We taxed the wealthy a lot more. That's what was making America so-called greater for more people back then. It wasn't great for everybody, and I think it should be great for everybody. The idea that we think of America first in a global system, I think, is flawed. I understand the perspective that we want to make sure we take care of Americans, but I'm advocating that we actually do instead of just using that rhetoric to distract and excuse doing harmful things to other people. I think it's time to stop blaming people that don't have power to benefit the powerful. It's always been used as a distraction, and it's always been a lie that we can't do better things for Americans. They're always blaming, like, oh, we're spending money on this, when that's not true. You can look at where all the money is concentrated and has been more so since the Citizens United decision. I also want to talk about how we can think about the media. There is reason to distrust the media. My argument is it's too pro corporate, and a lot of it advantages the right wing. A lot of people don't identify it as that way. But if you do critical analysis, you see that Democrats are held to a different standard than Republicans are, um, and right wingers are in general. And there's reasons for that. That is not to say that Republicans are more serious, that they're better for the government. We can see very clearly right now that they are not. Nobody is happy right now when the Republicans have control over everything. And I don't really care about the right or so called left divide because I don't think it's relevant. What we see is right wing policies across the board, by both parties because they're both bought. I see foreign influence, like the support of Israel during a genocide is inexcusable. The world is waking up to this fact that it's not viable at all to continue supporting Israel, because of what it's doing, and that has to change. I think we should be more critical of media, and I think we should be more critical of people in power, and we should look for actions that are beneficial to support. I don't think it makes sense to have a broad negative view only of both parties. I think we should just look for things that they do that are beneficial, but we have to question that stuff. We have to check the facts and actually do some analysis of what kind of benefit there might be. And we also have to keep an eye out for people that are trying to pretend. Like, I'm looking for more progressives. I'm looking for more people that are of the democratic socialist bent because that's what the economic and social policies, those are the ones that lead to more freedom, more better outcomes for everybody across the board. That's just looking at the facts. That's what I want. But there's a so-called progressive that has been revealed as sort of a bit of a charlatan. This guy Isaiah Martin, who is apparently he's a Zionist and has cozied up with Republicans that I have no respect for, and I think probably should be locked up for a lot of the things that they have done. Greg Abbott is one of them, and people in Texas aren't a fan of him either. Like, you look at the red states that have been in red control, Republican control for decades, and they are not doing well. The people are not doing well. So anyway, I just wanted to pop on here real quick to let you guys know that I'm doing okay, and I have more stuff to come out soon. I've been trying to use some programs that I don't really appreciate that much because of their environmental impact, like ChatGPT, but they are useful in putting things together relatively quickly. I'm going to be looking for alternatives if I can. And I've heard that we should be cautious about using programs like that because they're tracking what we're using them for. Honestly, I think at this point, if you're not considered some kind of a threat to this regime, I think you're probably doing some things wrong. I'd like you to look up Fred Hampton, who was considered one of the greatest threats to the United States for his time and what they did to him and why they did it to him. I think it's important to look at who the state thought was a threat and why. And it's not because they're dangerous to the people. They're dangerous to the state. We should only be so lucky. Anyway, thanks, guys. Take care. I'll see you in the next one. Hey, folks, I forgot to add another thing that I want to talk about in the coming videos is I think it's really important that all of us make our best effort to avoid using any rhetoric that is attacking anyone in any conceivable way. We have to avoid what has divided us. That is not to say that we are forgiving people that have harmed us. That's not to say that we are not angry at the harms that are being done right now. It's not to say that we're excusing anything. I think it's really important over time that people process how they're feeling about all this stuff. I think forgiveness is a tool for you yourself as an individual so you can heal and move on, because holding on to that those intense feelings can actually have a pretty toxic effect. It's not really necessarily for the other individual that did you harm. I'm not saying that you need to try to engage in that at any point before you're ready to do it. But when we're talking to other people, I think we should seek to understand where the person is and then try to move from there. Like, I think it's important to ask questions like, listen, regardless of whatever you've supported in the past, what I want to know for you, what is it that you care about? What are you looking for to happen moving forward for yourself? What do you need? And then what do you think, what would you like to have happen to me? Because if there's overlap there with some sense of a fair society moving forward, and you guys are on the same page, you can talk. You can be selective about what you talk about. But I think things should be centered in just making a statement like, if they say anything that is going to be potentially harmful for others, I think it's fair to say, I don't think we have to sacrifice anyone to address things going forward. I think there's plenty of room and there's plenty of ways that we can have a fair society for everyone. I think it's important that we all unlearn some of the lessons that were learned in the process of us getting propagandized against one another. Because what we need to understand is there are people that have all the power that are doing this and that have done this going back to early civilization. That's been the trend, and that keeps on popping up. And the people, when left divided, lose power, and that loss of power comes with consequences. There's a reason why states all around the world seem to have a priority of not giving people opportunity to unite together. Like in the United States, we have these scare words about socialism and communism when people don't really understand what those words actually mean anymore. They just get scared. But what's really scary is authoritarianism, is oligarchy, is fascism, and too much concentrated power in anyone's hands is dangerous. All of us should be wary about any labels that lead to misunderstanding right now. The shorthands of the left and the right have, I don't know, I think in a way outlived their usefulness. Like a lot of our language has been co-opted by people that are manipulating everybody for their own ends. The people with over $10 million of wealth have united against us, and they use the powers of the state to abuse us and to prevent us from having any collective understanding, any collective power, any collective demands. Because if enough of us get together, we can invoke those demands and we can make change. But we can only do that if enough of us get together. The studies on this have shown this is based on actual evidence. In order to overcome an authoritarian regime like a dictatorship, you only need 3.5% of the population in a sustained effort. Basically meaning we don't participate in the system, meaning we don't feed the billionaires our time, energy, resources, money. We work together to create a parallel system to support us. And that's where the change starts. And that's sustainable. No dictatorship in history has ever been able to persist under those conditions. And that's what we need to do. All right. Stay safe out there. Stay sane out there. Take care of yourselves. Bye.